Perkembangan teknologi yang pesat di Indonesia membuat industri rintisan atau startup tumbuh semakin subur. Hal ini terlihat dari jumlah bisnis startup Indonesia yang terus meningkat hingga mencapai lebih dari 1.000 dan terdiri atas berbagai jenis. Potensi besar ini mendongkrak gairah para pemodal ventura lokal dan internasional untuk berinvestasi pada pelaku usaha rintisan dalam negeri. Berbagai upaya pun ditempuh investor, salah satunya dengan menggelar konferensi untuk mempertemukan startup potensial dengan pemodal, inkubator bisnis, dan mentor seperti Global Venture Summit. Dengan tema besar Empowering Scalable Technologies in High Growth Markets, Global Venture Summit 2018 menghubungkan lebih dari 100 modal ventura dengan 200 investor di 4 kota yang disinggahi, yakni Los Angeles, Mexico City, Dubai, dan Jakarta. Selain Indonesia, Global Venture Summit yang digelar di Dubai pada November mendatang juga banyak menyedot perhatian lantaran negara-negara di Timur Tengah, terutama Arab Saudi, berminat untuk mengembangkan investasi di sektor teknologi. Inilah untuk kedua kali Global Venture Summit yang diprakarsai Parkpine Capital digelar di Indonesia. Sedikitnya 250 startup lokal potensial yang diboyong Badan Ekonomi Kreatif Indonesia berkesempatan bertemu dengan investor pilihan dari Silicon Valley. Yang menarik dari Global Venture Summit 2018, aktor Hollywood sekaligus co-founder Parkpine Capital, Billy Zane, turut menjadi pembicara dan berbagi ide kepada peserta dalam menghadapi berbagai tantangan pengembangan bisnis startup. Ada pula pitch battle startup yang memperebutkan total hadiah $50.000 Amerika Serikat dan kunjungan ke Silicon Valley. Acara seperti ini diharapkan bisa membuka lebih lebar pintu investasi startup dalam negeri, sekaligus menjadi ruang bagi generasi muda yang menjadi pebisnis startup untuk berkolaborasi dan berjejaring dalam inovasi teknologi. Yoga Gotama, CNN Indonesia.
Ya, setelah berhasil menyelenggarakan Global Venture Summit pada tahun lalu, di Bali kini Global Venture Summit untuk kedua kalinya berada di Indonesia. Kali ini di Jakarta. Nah, Global Venture Summit ini merupakan suatu event yang mempertemukan antara para perusahaan startup dan para investor pilihan dari Silicon Valley, Amerika Serikat. Dan diharapkan dengan adanya pertemuan ini, funding atau investasi terhadap startup khususnya yang ada di Indonesia itu bisa mendapatkan para investor. Nah, untuk mengetahui sebenarnya sejauh mana sih Indonesia itu masih sangat atraktif atau menarik ya bagi para investor, khususnya investor kakap dengan dana yang cukup besar. Telah hadir bersama saya founder, inisiator dan juga yang memulai Global Venture Summit, Ahmed Shabana, Managing Partner dari Parkpine Capital, dan juga kali ini ditemani dengan seorang yang mungkin tidak asing lagi bagi Anda yang suka sekali menonton film Titanic. Dia adalah Billy Zane, seorang aktor Hollywood tapi juga ternyata sekarang menjadi Managing Partner dari Parkpine Capital dan juga bagian dari Global Venture Summit. Halo.
Hello.
Ahmed, hi.
Hi.
Billy.
It's
good to see you. We're so excited to have a big celebrity on our show. But
Me too. I'm so excited. It's one of my favorites.
yeah, we're equally excited to have you, Ahmed. I mean, we met last time. We were in Bali, Global Venture Summit, and that was actually the first time. It was the launch. Okay, so this is the second time in Indonesia, but I hear since then you've had several of these summits all over the world. So tell us, what's different this year? What have you got to bring for us, and why should we in Indonesia be excited about it?
It's a great question. So we have a lot of progress to share. So we started in Bali, as you said, but we toured Los Angeles, Dubai, Mexico City, and now finishing with Jakarta. And we helped around 12 companies secure $20 million only in GVS. So that's a very good metric that we're proud of.
Yeah.
Collectively.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. So
So you're excited to be back in Indonesia this
very
time?
excited, and we're in the tour. We brought around 30 billion in Silicon Valley funds. All these fund managers touring with us and helping startups and connecting with GVS and Parkpine as well.
In terms of numbers, how many investors from Silicon Valley you bringing, and also how many startups you hoping to kind of connect?
Yeah, so each city around 50, around 50 Silicon Valley investors and international investors. So, and the average number of startups at each event is around 250, from exhibitors to startup founders, and around 1,000 attendees, up to maybe in some cities, maybe 1,500 in each city. So it's a growth since Bali. Very proud of that.
You mentioned
Yes.
who's joining us from Silicon Valley.
So we have Google Ventures this time. We have Angel List. We have the CDO of Angel List.
500.
500 startups. Sequoia. Previously we had Intel Capital. A lot of names. All the top
Big names,
big names.
but not as big as Billy Zane.
And grow. Food is so good.
Okay, before I get to you, Billy, but so what's the connection? I mean, why bring a Hollywood star in, and what you get to, hope to gain out of it, other than maybe more promotion, more publicity, and more interest in general?
Fantastic. So aside from the GVS, which is very neutral and inviting to all venture funds and startups, there's Parkpine Capital that holds the summit. Parkpine Capital is a venture capital fund in LA, San Francisco. We do post-revenue and early stage. And Billy is the partner also with me on that. So yeah, that's the connection.
How it came about, I think is what you're trying to get to.
Absolutely, Billy.
I had been diversifying for some years, but in the last year have concentrated primarily around technology and bridging tech coming out of institutional academia, primarily early stage pre-market technology marketed to private sector. Media was the low-hanging fruit and nose of the Trojan horse, as it were. I started a partnership with the Office of Tech Transfer at Caltech in Pasadena, where I live, to do just that and to build a bridge to initially to the media industry as a form of West Coast lab, if you would. We call it the Convergence Lab because the vector is wider than just media. And it's a very robust think tank with an incredible brain trust, drawing from the Art Center as well, which is an institution just next door, from Caltech, from Hollywood, from Silicon Valley, Wall Street. And we're a solutions house, but we're also able to commercialize the IP that comes out of that university, among others.
But how do you fit in? I mean, you have, the business, the commercial side, and of course we have the Hollywood, and I see a lot of Hollywood celebrities, once they speak even outside of the sort of entertainment business, they can generate a lot of influence. How does that Hollywood aspect fit into both the Global Venture Summit and also the Parkpine Capital, and how do you see that you can actually add value other than, of course, the celebrity value that you bring?
That's a very good question. Thank you. Celebrity has is a very curious currency. It's access. I find heads of state and captains of industry all love movies, and or their children love a particular film. And I found that I had utilized that unique currency during some time at the UN, working with NGOs, with some state representatives, introducing some solutions around in ecology primarily, but ultimately trying to find the win-win scenario where they're fiscally prudent but also socially beneficial and responsible. And that resonated with me, and I was able to carry that forward. So the value of our, mutual deep Rolodexes, shared interests around providing assistance as a business model, identifying growth, and creating scalability, or the rails to scale, and then wrapping it around with conscious commerce and a social caveat around the back end, from initiatives around a nonprofit.
But is it an advantage though, because your background, obviously, your expertise is very different? I mean, what's the people's reaction to having you in this kind of arena, so to speak? They said, "Well, Billy, didn't know that you're into that," or
it sets the table for what we think is a really dynamic answer. which is a seemingly divergent people who have a mutual shared vision that is targeted upon assistance and advancement and success in all of life's currencies. So it poses the question. It seems very effective. Thus, we're sitting here now. So
we have a lot of stuff, like I said, the young people. We have a lot of creativity, innovation, and just a different areas that we can actually develop. But what would you like to see, or what sort of ideas would you like to see come out from this part of the world, which is obviously very different to the startups in the States? But has it been sort of in terms of effectiveness, and has it been generating positive?
Absolutely. I think
results?
where it's more accepted now, or more like people. There's a lot of celebrities who have started their funds, who have started being in venture, in tech, other than just the creative side or just the movie industry. So now it's not too extreme. People, of course, would love to take the meeting and just explore how they can do business with Parkpine and with us. So it's definitely been very positive.
In terms of the innovation, creativity, and change of focus, perhaps the Parkpine Capital itself, how does that tie in with the sort of the Hollywood influence?
So it's not only exclusive to Hollywood. It's a component of Parkpine. So that element in the recipe definitely adds more depth to what we do. The relationships to Caltech and Hollywood definitely adds things, but we're also very appealing is the global appeal of what we're doing in GVS, and having Billy as a very well-known figure also adds to the commercialization aspect of how this is appealing and what are we actually doing. So more people are conscious now on the opportunities, not just in Silicon Valley, but in countries like Indonesia and specifically what's happening in Jakarta. So I think overall it's been very...
And the fundamental, if I may,
Sure.
the benefit of having a storyteller in the mix is something that we encourage with our investments, with the companies we work with. And I've been preaching, that every company providing a service or a product should have a in-house production company, production arm, to understand how to reach an audience using, more deeper and more engaging tools, and narrative advertising, if you would. Understanding the audiovisual medium, short form or long form, becomes quite critical. So, not only in the marketing, but in the early stage development. We're finding, as something we're doing with Convergence Lab and working with members from Art Center as well, is informing algorithm and early stage engineering with elegant design. That's been a very exciting
But tell me some of the sort of products of this, like the Convergence Lab, and what can we see?
It's
come
early
out
days.
of
I'm
it?
not at liberty to discuss some of those just yet, but we're
It's a secret.
we're trying to inform or inject art into the narrative around mind and body, which is ascribed to, let's say, AI and robotics. So early stage in the conversations. Some of the clients we're working with, I cannot I'm not at liberty to mention at the moment, but. In terms of the foundational areas of exploration, where we feel, bringing storytelling to the table, where they are free from the burden of expertise, as I like to say, stirs up and asks the right questions. When you have specialists, engineers, mathematicians, physicists, and then you bring an artistic, design-centric voice to the table, not just movie stars.
Yeah.
It stirs it up and opens up the narrative. So we look at investments the same way. We look at
When you combine AI and creativity, like there's a lot of potential. So there's the EQ element of intelligence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it certainly brings the world of investment and venture capitals and startup much more exciting, having this kind of convergence, so to speak. Let's go back to why you are here in Indonesia and this particular global summit in Jakarta. Any difference from last year in terms of Indonesia's attractiveness, more opportunities you see, and what kind of things would you like to see come out of Indonesia?
So definitely since last year a lot has happened. There's more unicorns and the appetite now to invest, and the economy is just very ready to accept more capital. We've seen a couple of U.S. funds that allocated specific just funds to Indonesia, even by sector for fintech. And I think that's going to increase even more next year. We're going to see at least 2 or 3 more unicorns, and we're going to see more funds coming here. And we will be here for sure. It's a commitment for us for every year being in Indonesia, and I think having this summit.
But compared to other countries in the region, and particularly in some of the countries that you visited last, like Mexico, how do we compare? And what kind of things that still need to be fixed in terms of regulations? Because I think the government is still sort of tinkering on that aspect, getting the proper regulation out.
I think the government has a great attitude towards how to support these startups. Recently, there's a lot of IPOs, Indonesian tech companies doing IPOs in Indonesia Stock Exchange, and so I think that's a very healthy sign. It's I think gradually the government agencies that are working just focus on creativity and tech are doing a great job coordinating with the rest of or the legal system in Indonesia. So compared to a country like Mexico, I think Mexico's also doing a great job. I think now it's a competition on which country would keep more capital and innovate and grow their tech ecosystem.
U.S. investors are, dealing with fairly volatile trade policy right now, and regulations as well. It's it's a bit of a guessing game. So you're seeing quite a few flock to Asia for investment because of the regulations have been set in place, and they're consistent. Are they under review at some point? And certainly, but they seem more predictable and stable, an ecosystem to invest in, and the growth is phenomenal. I mean, you have. The adoption to technology here is really exciting. The demographic being so strongly, driven by youth, who drive the adoption, and the sheer numbers. Your population, was it 260 million or something like that, right? I mean, it's pretty.
We have, and you're right. We have a lot of young people, and we are early adopters of, we're Twitter capital. But what sort of companies would sort of excite your interest? Growing. I mean, this part of the world, obviously. I mean, we have a lot of stuff, like you said, the young people. We have a lot of creativity, innovation, and just a different areas that we can actually, develop. But what would you like to see, or what sort of ideas would you like to see come out from this part of the world, which is obviously very different to maybe startups in the States or in developed countries?
As I said, I hate to turn that question, reverse it or turn it on its head, but a big part of the early success we've been having is listening, enabling and listening, and we're firm believers in identifying the passion, where the passion and expertise and proficiency lay, and then building a organizing principle and business model around enhancing that, and then giving it wings. So, in our early stage of, let's say, discovery before strategy and implementation, I'd say this phase is what's exciting to us, and providing maybe greater tools to identify outliers, or we don't know where that next
absolutely
coder is going to be. It's a little girl in a village, that way, and like what is the infrastructure to enable that kind of shift and impact. And it's one thing to work with universities or startups, great, but that chasm between great raw talent and the ability to capitalize upon it is vast, and we're interested in, certainly our our model around Parkpine is investing in post-revenue companies, but we're fascinated from our more kind of philanthropic back-end operation in identifying local organizations in every community that that Global Venture Summit is operating that enhance the early stage.
Is this something that is ongoing? Have you started it?
It's just starting, but we're doing plug and play right now.
Where do you the kind of vision? Where would you like to take this?
Where it goes, I go back to the earlier point. It's the beautiful thing about that, the liberty is it's not. I think what we try to do is not impose, again a superstructure upon this and then try to fit it. It's,
And the global partners that we have, so each city we
that
have.
point.
So every single country, like how we can operate from San Francisco or Los Angeles and just keep things going all year round. It's the strength of the partners and agencies, coding academies, like other venture capital funds that have been successful.
Sounds interesting, coding academies and bringing more girls into, as coders, even though I think girls are naturally,
they created it.
Yeah,
didn't
they created
Come
it.
on.
The first coders were women during the Second World War. They actually had to decode the German encrypted messages, while the men were out there fighting as soldiers.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that would be great. But companies that they're increasingly more interested in that, especially when it comes to scalability and the big profit out of it at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Which is what it's all about. I mean, it's
that old chestnut.
the art aspect, obviously, is something that you would like to see, right, Billy? Because you're from the creative media. I mean, is this in terms of developing the kind of results and products?
Well, informing algorithm with elegant design, I think, is fascinating. I think we're going to see, a whole different array of companies from this concept and this philosophy. It's something we're kind of excited by. Mind you, some great things will happen from fairly traditional fronts, but I think by mixing up the conversation and the, in early stage and bringing a seemingly divergent expertise to the table, we're going to not only find amazing answers, but like the right questions.
I get. Ahmed, you said that appetite for this part of the world, particularly Indonesia, investors are interested, but any sort of particular interest, we're going back to the same question, what kind of companies that they're increasingly more interested in that, especially when it comes to scalability and the big profit out of it at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Which is what it's all about. I mean, it's
that old chestnut.
So data, absolutely. So the growth in data. So what can we, how fast can we generate data with keeping a business profitable and offering something different that's not easy to just get into the market with. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think Indonesia has, as Billy said, the population, the growth rate, and the curiosity to adopt new technologies, new applications, new even the one that's localized here and are successful. So.
And who are the active or the main investors, and are they growing in terms of the diversity and what countries they come from?
Yeah, it's very interesting because the venture funds here, they're getting all sorts of limited partners or all sorts of investors themselves, even from China, from Thailand. So that proves that there's a lot of foreign interest in the economy of Indonesia. So, even though the venture capital firm might be Indonesian, its investors might be most of the time anywhere. So that proves that they are want to back Indonesian venture capital firms which got to invest in Indonesian startups.
Okay, if we look at the map of the world, I mean, where is the most money coming from? Is it still coming from the US, or some countries like there's China, but then there's countries in the Middle East, for example, where they have a lot of
exactly. So
money.
recently, the Middle East has been very active, specifically Saudi Arabia, very active in changing the oil economy to more tech and backing SoftBank or similar venture funds, and Magic Leap recently, and transforming the Prince going to Silicon Valley recently and doing all these deals. But also we're very excited on how Parkpine can work with the new government in Saudi and actually executing something like a Silicon Valley smart city and bringing more technologies to the kingdom as well. So very excited to have.
So what kind of funding can we expect coming out from that?
So it might,
and how much of it can go
Good
into
question.
Indonesia?
Good question. Have to look at the sheets.
Yeah.
Well positioned. Need to pivot that back home.
Good. So yeah, I mean, we're hopefully gonna have something to announce very soon. Definitely in the next 2 to 3 months. And then as Parkpine is very global and just interested in scaling beyond borders, you're definitely going to see part of this dedicated to Indonesia.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
we did have a visit from the King Salman last year, so we're still waiting for that investment to
Bali is an
come
amazing
this
excuse.
way.
And the actual funds will be multiplied. Let's say Parkpine puts 20 million in Indonesia. It's not going to be 20 million deals only, because other funds are going to participate in these rounds. So you're talking about co-investments that are multiples of these 20 million. So yeah, it's going to be very healthy.
But in terms of the philosophy or just the vision, what's the main difference, if you can call it this, sort of the comparative advantage or the what makes Parkpine Capital different, for example, from other venture capitals, and what kind of aspect you bring to the table, particularly for the startups, rather than the money? I mean, money we can get anywhere, but
it's a great question, though. So why is Parkpine,
other than Billy Zane? I mean, I'm sure he's worth a lot of money.
No, but it's a legitimate question. When we, as a venture capital fund, it's like when a startup pitches to a VC pitches to investors. So why Parkpine? Of course, Billy's amazing, but what else can we offer? So we believe that we can spot the undervalued companies all around the world, in Mexico here. So the lack of funding here, which it's well known, there's a lack of funding, either it's in Series A or between the seed and Series A. We are able, through the summit, to notice what's happening with these companies. What kind of term sheets are they getting? Why are these valuations not as they should? And we offer fair valuations to these companies. So so we empower these entrepreneurs and these companies with fair valuations, and these entrepreneurs always remember what they go through, what kind of offer. Did you actually use them as an investor? Did you give them something fair? So you can participate in round B or C, or even in their next company. They really have this emotional connection that you help them in their entrepreneurial life. So.
Would you expect them to be, one day unicorns? You put that kind of pressure on them, and
I mean, it depends, because of course venture funds, they have their own LPs. You want to deliver results, but it's all about relationships. And I think having this right mindset from the beginning is definitely different. The other component of Parkpine is the global element, like having all these global partners. We're able to spot what companies can be easily replicated from, again, Mexico to here, or here to the US. So that adds a lot of the partnerships that we can offer. We can, for example, a company we invested in LA, we connected it with investors from Asia, specifically Hong Kong, and the valuation multiplied. So that what we can offer through partners in telecom and media. So yeah.
Is this something that would, the supervision, the monitoring, I mean, something that you're interested in, Billy, making sure that
the oversight
oversight
around this
as well
interconnected universe, naturally, and enhancing the technologies that make that, more efficient, being the client and the owner of a system that enhances.
So you'll be sort of hands-on in some of these.
Certainly, without question. I mean, again, our unique access that we bring, the different perspectives that we both approach the same objective from, while coming in and creating, more healthy competition, more reasonable valuation. All of these things point to, a fairly successful run.
So profit is one of the motivations why you...
More than one. I mean, I'm playing, being coy.
Yeah.
Of course, it's all built around profit. You have to be enabled in order to do the, let me just back it up for a second. Again, we're not looking at the usual sequencing, back to form and content, where we like to, disrupt the notion that, let's say, marketing or storytelling or an artistic eye or elegant design is usually at the back end of this, Henry Ford, factory. We want to bring that up front, right? Okay, that's in the creation or in inspiring or opening up and asking the right questions, spurring innovation in a very unique way. Much to the effect we want to, stir up our investments the same way and bring this perspective kind of full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why our thesis had that we give back through the coding schools, the women with coding, and even part of our carry and management fees goes to that as well.
But profit is critical
Yeah.
Of course,
to that
of course.
model, because you need to, you need to be enabled. And I believe you can, these things can happen simultaneously. It's not just, make a profit, then give back. I believe this, these things can be symbiotic, can be actually that intention at Genesis could influence a modeling that would promote greater success and a quicker run to IPO than if you were solely driven on a profit motive. By having it's just simply, a philosophical perspective. Look, some of these, the thing about having a diverse portfolio, some of them will be very traditional and be straight, straight biz. Some will benefit from, viewing it through a different aspect and facet of the prism.
And if you can create jobs for people, if you can create opportunities, I mean, that's a great thing. I know you're a star, but here's the
Can't
biggest
compete.
star.
Love
You
his
were-
work.
Remember Titanic, Rose's horrible boyfriend. Anyway, is this...
Misunderstood.
Yes.
Boyfriend.
Let me just focus on what we know you for. I mean, Billy, I know you're a star, but here's the
Can't
biggest
compete.
star.
Love
You
his
were-
work.
Remember Titanic, Rose's horrible boyfriend. Anyway, is this...
Misunderstood.
Yes.
Boyfriend.
Understood boyfriend.
Misunderstood.
Remember his, that diamond, I still remember it's that coat. Is this part of your personal journey, it's the next step of your evolution in the life of Billy Zane? I mean, how does it fit in with you as an actor? Because until now, from what I know, you're still very productive. You're still producing, and acting in films and TV. So tell us a little bit.
We're filming right now in
Yeah.
Manchester, a television series for the Sky Network called Curfew. It's quite wonderful. But I, by all means, I maintain that day job, as it were, because it creates a unique relevance and fascination. Again, curious access to opportunities and decision makers who all love media and movies. There's a fascination around it. It's just what you do with that and leverage it, and the opportunities you provide. Positioning oneself in an, within an ownership stake of a, lucrative venture.
But how many percent does it take up of
And enabling others to do the
your
same.
this activity? How
Which
many-
portion?
The the business aspect, because you still, like you said, you're shooting a film, and I'm sure you have.
It happens simultaneously. It happens, 24/7. It's
He's amazing with the
Wow.
it doesn't stop. I go, they work in concert, and there's a lot of downtime on the set. And thank God I'm involved in something that requires my focus and responsibility, both with Parkpine and the Convergence Lab, and they work so, well together. But it occupies that, and being a father, I think it's a pretty full slate. So
So tell us about your latest project. You're shooting a series
I don't know what I'm allowed to say. I hate to be
Okay.
vague on these things.
All right, but
it's an
it keeps you busy.
8 episodes of something pretty cool in Manchester. It's been keeping me busy. But I've spent every other waking hour flying back, seeing the kids, or FaceTiming them, or coming here, or on conference calls and flying to meetings.
But did you enjoy acting? I mean, would you consider yourself like, okay, now because you're wearing a lot of hats, with so many talents, you have obviously this entrepreneurship talent, but
do I enjoy acting?
Yes.
Of course. Thoroughly. I love it. It's something I've done for so long. But always with an eye on service. Curiously, I attribute any success I've had to realizing that the privilege of forum on that scale and lasting. Anyone can be famous for 5 minutes, but to build a career.
You
I started when I was
how many films?
I mean,
like hundreds.
over 120 something. I don't know. But I started when I was 18. I'm 52, and I haven't really stopped in that period. And I took a detour. Curiously, I wanted to be actually in a more of an administrative. I wanted to be behind camera. I wanted to direct and produce, and acting was in my DNA. It was in my family. It was in my blood. I came from a family of actors. It was But I realized at the time I started, it was the point of access into the industry that would be the quickest ramp towards success. But it held me captive for some time, but pushed the sphere of influence and the awareness to a global scale. So, there's not a country that one of these, or many of the projects I've been in isn't playing at some point. So
Are you quite picky? I mean, how do you choose your roles and what?
Wardrobe. No, I don't.
As long as you can wear a superhero like
Exactly.
handsome.
Lycra, as long as it's tight, a little form-fitting, I think it's fine. So back to my early point, and then I'll answer that, I guess. The being of service is what I figured is what someone deserves, or what success deserves. Who deserves to, resonate and last is, so that philosophy, and it seemed to have paid off, so I just maintained and then slowly pivoted and expanded the application of that philosophy into creating, annuity on a personal level. Profit is very important to me. It's important to me. I have a fiduciary responsibility to my investors and to, the companies we work with, and a responsibility to my family. And,
So
being
what's
a
the
vendor in a volatile industry, of any industry, is not how I want to grow old. So ownership and equity and
But is it hard to
legacy.
be?
Sorry?
Is it hard to be out of Hollywood? I mean, it's very cutthroat. It's very, it's like, if your money is not making the money, if your film's not making the money.
I've
and
rounded the horn on that paranoia long ago. There's a period in career building where you're really paranoid about, your last movie, but then when you hit a tipping point of saturation, it's irrelevant to the often flawed metrics and models that value an artist, which is, fueled by many influences. No, I don't
Doesn't
really
get
care.
you down,
Not at all. Because, the audience is always right, like a customer. And, the fan base is now so immediate with these tools that, we're trying to enable and enhance, that, there's a direct access and there's a way to gauge and communicate and contact where where the value is. But in the past, there were gatekeepers who tried to retain that information and control the seeming value and preach a different narrative. Today, the roof's blown off of it, and you can not only know the numbers, but you can deliver directly to them and create a new relevance and a new ecosystem. And it's just
So your own definition of success as an actor now is what? Like there's you
as
now.
an actor. I think it's, actors are, if you go, I always try to look back to the ancients, you know, and learn from the lesson, and the playwrights. If you go to Aristophanes or Aeschylus, and what was the function of theater? What was the role? And it was to inform the polis, to inform, to advance the city, to advance culture, to shine a light and hold a mirror. Whether that mirror is a black mirror or digital, I don't know, but I go back to the foundation of why and try to use those superpowers for good instead of evil. Ironically, playing bad guys for a majority of my career is a joke put upon me that I can only receive with, further chuckles. But, it allows me to focus on creating cautionary tales and mine understanding, not sympathy, and look at things in a way that I think informed me as a businessman. It forced a perspective, a unique perspective and a deeper dive that shaped me and put me on this couch at this moment in Jakarta on CNN up here with you fine people.
Well, of course, if we talk about Billy Zane, again, the Titanic, because it was a blockbuster, and I have seen the film like a couple of times. I know you must get this.
No, I'm very proud of it.
Kind
Never
of question.
sick, yes.
But would you,
tired.
what did that film do to you in terms of your acting profession, but also how did it affect your journey as an actor, having this character, this villain, always kind of being mentioned? Maybe because it was a huge film, and I'm sure it's influenced your career somehow.
On a one-on-one with the general public, it stirs conversation. Excuse me. It's a funny point of entree to be universally loathed or seemingly loved. I always say the world is divided. There's two types of women out there.
I like the dark type, not so much the blonde type.
It goes blonde, brunette, but it's all there's a deep dive into that psychological analysis. But access again is what's been a big impact. Being an ambassador of sorts for that particular movie, which touched so many people in ways.
In lots of ways.
Lots of ways.
And that song, Celine Dion.
Beautiful song. I don't know. It was a great privilege. I could have stopped there, but one must stay relevant and timely. And I'm really fascinated by the much like development, innovation, and tech, and within the media space. I've recently embraced. The Comic-Con universe, having made superhero movies in the past or genre films that have been of interest, I've always been a bit, reticent or distant. I went deep diving recently into the world of cosplay and into the fan psychology, and I'm fascinated by this reaction to, otherwise introverted. Definitions of geek. We've now seen an extrovert, which is this costume play, and now trying to create interesting pieces of content speaking directly to them. Now I'm borrowing from our, more entrepreneurial universe. I switch hats, and now I'm bringing that back to the media landscape and going, okay, how can we disrupt and innovate and create success where others are sleepwalking?
Another aspect of you, which probably don't know very much about. I mean, you've got, I think, in your CV. I mean, by the way, in your epitaph, what would you like to have mentioned? Actor, entrepreneur. There's another one, which is an artist. But did you enjoy that film? Would you
Sorry,
say?
you want to talk about Titanic?
But no. I just very quickly. Would you say that was your favorite film? I mean, did you?
Oh, among them, certainly. It was an extraordinary experience, and I love the film. I'm a big fan of quite a few others as well.
So that's over reasons. 2 decades ago. Yeah. How do you look back on it? I mean,
with difficulty.
'Cause it was
It's 2
so long
decades
ago.
old.
But do you still keep in touch with, good old Leo,
Of course.
Leonardo, and Kate Winslet?
They're lovely.
Get them to become venture capitalists as well.
They're already pushing the envelope in so many ways. The work he's doing with his foundation is extraordinary. So important. The pillars that they focused upon, the critical things we have to do before 2050, or all of this is pointless.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really at the end of the day where we should be focusing our, collective attentions. Folly and distraction, entertainment, wonderful, efficiency is great, but without a focus on ecology, absolutely pointless.
Yeah, I mean,
You can't spend this money, kids. It's like you can't breathe the air.
Yeah,
so.
we've had Leo in this part of the world. He's very interested in tiger conservation.
Absolutely.
So he's very much involved.
No, I encourage
that
everyone to
aspect.
go to the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation.org and brush up on the pillars and see what you
Yeah.
can do to assist.
So, what is your favorite film
That I've been in?
that you think like, wow, this is me, this is the character, this is the...
I'm a big fan
Like-
of The Phantom. I was a fan of the comic before I got to play that role, and what I like about him is he's a happy hero. He's that film was maybe a little ahead of its time for the genre, the big boost the genre got, but it was an adventure film, and that's
and
a
it's got
lost.
a nice costume as well.
Nice costume and nice setting, and it was produced by much of the team who did the Indiana Jones film and the studios who brought out those films, and one of the writers of Last Crusade, Jeffrey Boehm, one of my favorite writers, and the spirit of that character that Lee Falk created was, he wasn't superhuman, he was superhumane, had animal friends, had a girlfriend, and good with his fists, and never killed. He disarmed. Another really important thing for me. I have a hard time with, getting behind a hero who's a breath away from a sociopath or from the villain he's pursuing. That blur and that line in the interest of edge. Edge isn't modern anymore. It's actually passé. That it's context. What's new and what's hip is contextual, and I think we've
Too bad it didn't, have a franchise, or there was no Phantom 2. Would you like to have continued?
Oh, I would love it. I think it. I think there's certainly an audience for it, whether I do it or not. But I believe that there's a love of that ethos and that character and that energy, that white hat hero, as an antidote to the fairly disturbed.
Billy, there's
ones out there.
another aspect of you which probably don't know very much about. I mean, you've got, I think in your CV, by the way, in your epitaph, what would you like to have mentioned? Actor, entrepreneur. There's another one which is an artist, a successful artist, sold paintings, done exhibitions. How did that come about? Is this something that sort of developed recently, or have you always had that artistic leaning and talent?
I've always been one who appreciates the visual arts and always drew. Rarely painted, but I discovered paint later in life and made a few in my early 20s, but it was around the time of Titanic when we had all this downtime while making the film in Mexico for 7 months. I really threw myself into abstract expressionism and very large format. On painting on the ground, I was inspired by footage of Basquiat from Schnabel's film, painting with rollers. I like the industrial tools, and then Pollock, of course. And it spoke to me, the physicality of the application as opposed to staring into a canvas with a brush. I like the idea of the almost brutish and improvisational dance. It spoke to me as an actor. And my sense of aesthetic was able to, live there, and sense of balance and
It's quite a
composition.
solitary occupation, thinking about
Well, it's
it.
antidote to art by committee, certainly, which is what cinema
And this is something that
is.
you still do on a regular basis
Yeah.
amongst all your other activities.
I do. You can see some of
Wow.
the work at billyzaneart.com.
You've got a lot of energy.
for a jet-lagged man who flew around the world this morning.
Ahmed, I don't want to leave you out in the cold. Were you ever a
Thank
fan?
you. I was like,
No, were you
there's a
ever
guy sitting over
Pleasure.
here. A guy
Were you
sitting-
ever a fan? Did you actually, watch?
I
I mean, come on, let's be honest here.
Yeah,
How many of Billy's films have you seen
I
other
think-
than the Titanic?
No, but definitely the Phantom. Like I remember my brother keeping me watching the Phantom on repeat for 2 days. It was like one of our favorite movies on VHS, and I remember seeing Titanic back in Egypt for just waiting for 2 weeks to get one ticket. I remember like all the movies fully booked in Egypt, and it's just an amazing experience. So definitely on that side, it's
See, it was
yeah.
a defining moment for a lot of us there, Billy. You made history. You're part of that. Let's 5-10 years ahead. Where do you see Global Venture Summit? Do we still have it? I mean, how do you see it?
Yeah, I see.
Evolve?
Yeah, great question. I see the Global Ventures Summit in every major economy, and we might have every single month in an amazing city. And the idea is to keep more deals happening. So I would like to come back next year and tell you, instead of we have 12 deals, we have 50 deals done by 100 venture capital funds, and keep that growing. So it's a huge network. So definitely in 5 years, we want these 1,500 or 2,000 attendees today in Jakarta. We're planning, honestly, for Bali 2019 now to have a 50,000, 50, in Bali for over 5 days. So the preparation started this month already to engage the tourism board, Backcraft, to engage every single, there's a huge media, also partners. So to make something specifically for Bali, because Bali is very special where we started, and have something very unique there, but for GVS, definitely overall have it grow.
So we're going to see you again next year in Bali. Billy, are you coming to Bali? Because this
Yeah.
time, I mean, Jakarta
Twist my
is
arm.
great, but Bali is...
We're absolutely going to be there.
Okay.
We'll go there now.
Okay, thank you so much, Ahmed Shabana, and good luck with all the ventures. And let's hope we're going to see lots of, funds coming this way, and a lot of successful startups. And of course, it's always great to have you back. And of course, Billy,
Thank you.
your first time, but not last time, I hope.
Certainly not.
I hope you'll be
We're
a
joined at the hip. You'll see more of us.
maybe we should have you both dressed up as, the
He's doing set. If we're
superheroes.
joined at the hip, you got to come. We're filming.
Yeah.
That'll make
asking him for
that'll
a
make
role.
the summit even more interesting
Get to
if
makeup,
you
Shabana.
all
Absolutely.
dressed up as superheroes. Once again,
Practicing.
Ahmed, Billy, thanks so much.
Thank you, Desi.
Thank you. Ya, demikian Insight kali ini bersama Ahmed Shabana dan juga Billy Zane, ya, sangat menarik, dan kita harapkan dengan adanya Global Venture Summit di Jakarta tentu akan menarik lebih banyak lagi investasi khusus dari dunia internasional. Dan jangan lupa tahun depan juga akan ada lagi Global Venture Summit di Bali. Terima kasih atas perhatian Anda, dan jangan lupa saksikan Insight with Desi Anwar. Sampai jumpa dan bye.